Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's tutorial I'm going to be sharing with you how to cut this stylish 8 pieces blouse. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button. So let's dive right into today's video. So first, I've gone ahead to mark my basic measurement, which includes my shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to waistline. So for my top length, you can either add 5 to 7 inches. It totally depends, or you can just go ahead to measure what you want. Now, I'm going to mark my shoulder divided by 2. I'll come down by 1 inch and I'll draw my shoulder slope. The next step is to find my chest line, and to do that I'll divide my bust by 6 and add 1.5 inches. So after doing that, I have 7 inches. I'm going to go ahead and place my ruler and draw out a straight line which will be serving as my chest line. So I'll just go ahead and measure what I have back on the shoulder, on the chest line, and I'll just go ahead to connect. So after I'm done connecting this, I'll be dividing my armhole into 2, and after dividing it into 2, I'm going to mark and come out by ½ inch. At the chest line, I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now I'll place my curve drill, connect from that point to the ½ inch and to the upper part of my shoulder. So I went ahead to use my marker to mark this out. So next, I marked my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and I went ahead to draw a straight line. And the next step I'll take care is to draw out my dart. I'll be using a straight dart of 1 inch on the bust, on the under bust, and also at the waistline, and I will connect. So I'll come down by 4 inches, go ahead to connect it for my dart, and at this point I'll place my ruler, connect from my bust to my under bust, and also repeat this at the other side. So after that, I'll just go ahead to use my marker to outline the rest of this part of my pattern to make it visible. So I'm going to go ahead and divide my armhole into 2, and from that part I'll mark ½ inch dart intake at both sides, and I'll place my curve drill and I'll connect to the first initial line, that is the half part of my armhole. Now I'll take this down and also blend the other part. So I'll go ahead and use my marker to outline this. So now from this part I'll come out by 1 inch, that is the ½ inch take we took at both sides. I'll connect it back to the armhole and I'll draw this out. The next step is to insert your body measurement. I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 at this point, and I will mark. So there's no dart on that point, so there's no need taking a dart intake. And after that, I'll add my sewing allowance. At the under bust, I'll mark the under bust circumference divided by 4 mark, measure the dart intake, replace, and I'll add the sewing allowance. At the waistline, I'll mark the waist circumference divided by 4, measure this dart intake I have here, replace it, and add the sewing allowance. At the top length, I'm going to go ahead to mark my hip circumference divided by 4 and add my sewing allowance. Now, I'm just going to go ahead to connect this all the way from the upper part to the lower part of my pattern this way. So after I was done marking, this is what I have. So now we're going to draw out the sweetheart neckline. So from this part, I'm just going to come in and go down a bit from the chest line, and this is what I have. I'll just go ahead to use my marker to outline this. So after I'm done outlining, this is what I have, and we are going to go ahead to work on the lower part of this dress to give it a flay to form the 8 pieces that we have. So I'll just go ahead and I will cut this all the way out and also trace the other part of my pattern. So after cutting, this is what I have. Now we are going to add flay to the lower part to make it the 8 pieces. So I'm going to go ahead to pin my pattern paper starting from the waistline. So I'll be using a distance of 4 inches. So for the 4 inches, you're going to be marking this on both sides of your pattern paper. After that, for the front length, I came down a bit by 5 inches. So you can see the second line at the lower part. This is to create that longish effect we have. So from the other side of the 8 pieces flay. I'm just going to connect from that point down to that extra 5 inches that we came down from at the front part. So when I was actually marking that, I didn't know that my phone was not recording that part. So after this line, you're going to measure extra 5 inches, and from the waistline you're going to connect it and also connect the other side. So I'll just go ahead and use my marker to outline this. So this is what I have after I'm done marking out. So if you have any question regarding this particular tutorial, please leave your question at the comment section. After cutting the first part, we are going to move to the side. So I'm going to place my pattern paper starting from my waist, and I'm also going to make sure that I have 4 inches in front and also 4 inches at the back. And I'm going to be drawing a line on that part. That is my actual waistline. And remember, we're going to be measuring about 4 inches in front, and we're going to extend it. At the back also, you're going to measure about 4 inches and you extend it. Connect from your waist down to that new length, the 4 inches, and I'll just go ahead to cut this out. So at this point, to avoid giving it a sharp edge, I went up by 1 inch. So now I'll take the first part and place to the side, and now I'll just be cutting out that sharp edge that we have on the lower part to make it a bit roundish. And you want to indicate that there's like a little design at the lower part of this dress where you have like a silver design there. So I just marked that to show you. So after I was done cutting out, this is what I have. So by the time I cut out the other side, I'll be having a total of 4 pieces in front. So for this pattern, I went ahead to mark out all my basic measurements. The only difference is that I have a zipper in front, and all my measurements will start immediately after the zipper, unlike the front pattern that does not have a zipper allowance. So I'll also go ahead and divide my armhole into 2 and mark, just like we did for the front. Mark my bust circumference divided by 4, and then I'll just go ahead to connect this from that part to the armhole part. And now after I'm done doing that, I'll just go ahead to mark my dart, and to mark my dart, I'll be marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5 inches. I'll just go ahead and mark this all the way down on my pattern paper. I'll go ahead and connect and draw a straight line at those points, and I'll be marking a basic dart of 1/2 inch on both sides. After that, I'll just go ahead and connect this all the way up, and I will be connecting to the lower part of my pattern also. Now I'm going to insert my measurement at the bust line. I'll mark the bust circumference divided by 4 and add my sewing allowance. At the under bust, you can do that or leave it. Go down to my waist circumference, mark that, measure the dart intake, replace, and add my sewing allowance. At the top length, I'm going to go ahead to mark the hip circumference divided by 4 and also add my sewing allowance to the pattern. Now I'll just go ahead and connect my pattern all the way down. So I'll just go ahead and use my marker to outline this, and before we go ahead to cut this out, I'll go ahead and mark 1/2 inch at the waistline, take it all up and take it down to take out my zipper bulge. So I'll just go ahead and cut out my pattern, and after cutting it, this is what I have. The next step is to go ahead to extend the flay to form the 8 pieces. So just like we did for the front pattern, I'll also be adding 4 inches on both sides of my pattern to give it that 8 pieces flay effect. So if you notice, what I marked for the back is a bit short. I went up by 1 inch for the back, so I'll just go ahead to connect it to that 4 inches I marked, and then reconnect my zipper line this way. So remember, for the front pattern, we went down a bit by 5 inches after the actual measurement For the zipper side, I went down by 4 inches after the actual measurement. Now I went ahead to mark 4 inches on this side, and I will go ahead to connect. After I'm done connecting that, I'm just going to go ahead to connect it to the 4 inches that is on the same line with our pattern paper, just like we did for the front. And I'm just going to go ahead to trace this out, just like we also did for the front part. So if you have any question, you can also leave it at the comment section. So this is what I have for the zipper area of this pattern. Now we'll be heading over to the side part, and for the side part also, you are going to still measure that same 4 inches, and you're going to be pinning your paper, or you're going to use sellotape to hold it down. So I'll measure 4 inches from this point, and I'll mark, and I'll just go ahead to draw a straight line to help me serve as a guide. Then from the waistline, I'll connect down to that 4 inches, and from that point at the other side also, I'm going to measure 4 inches. So by the side, I came up by 1 inch and I connected, and from here I'll still measure that same 4 inches, draw a straight line that will help serve as a guide, and I'll connect to the waistline. And from this point, I'm just going to connect this. So if you notice the part at the side of this pattern paper, I used the actual length of the blouse for it, but when we got to the center point, because there's like a sharp or basque effect at the center, that's why we added extra 4 or 5 inches. So I'll go ahead and also place the waistline together, and you will notice that one is a bit longer, and then I'll just go ahead to connect, and I'll blend that point off. So you don't want to be having a sharp effect at that point. So with this, we have come to the end of today's tutorial. Also join us in our next video.